Air raid sirens screamed throughout the country of Israel earlier today as Iran fired at least 200 missiles into the country, followed by a threat to launch even more if Israel counterattacked. According to an Israeli spokesman, most of the missiles were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome. This aerial assault comes about 24 hours after Israeli military began a ground invasion of southern Lebanon in an effort to destroy the Iranian-backed terrorist militia Hezbollah. Joining me now from Israel to discuss the latest is Carolyn Glick. She's a senior contributing editor at the Jewish News Syndicate and host of the Carolyn Glick Show on JNS. Carolyn, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me on your program, Tony.
Well, Carolyn, thank you for staying up late. I know it's been a long day. You've spent a lot of time in the bomb shelter. Give us an update on first how you're doing and what is happening there in Israel tonight.
Well, yeah, we were in our shelter for about 40 minutes or so today, and it was a problem because we have the Jewish New Year starts tomorrow, and I was baking, so it got me off schedule. But aside from that, thank God, we're okay. We had a horrible terrorist attack in Tel Aviv today as well. And 7 are dead now, and another 11 are in critical conditions fighting for their lives out of 18 total wounded, or 17 now because one of the wounded just died. So that was horrible. And then we had 10 million people in shelters for about 45 minutes this evening as Iran shot 193 ballistic missiles at Israel. So it's been a rough day. And then yesterday, Israel sent ground forces into Lebanon for the first time openly, at any rate, during the course of this war, starting a ground operation there. So there's been a lot of news coming out of here, a lot of events going on here. It's a difficult time, and it's also a holy time. This is the time of our high holidays, and it's the holiest time of the Jewish year.
There seems to be a correlation when we're seeing some of these attacks taking place during these spiritually significant holidays. And I want to talk about that in a moment, but I want to break down some of these news items you brought up first. Connection between the attacks from Iran and the shootings in Tel Aviv. Was that coordinated, random? What do we know about the mass shooting there?
Well, we know that it was carried out by 2 terrorists from Hebron who were in Israel illegally, and that they carried it out with M16s that were totally in good working order. And those are weapons that the United States, for instance, provides to the Palestinian Authority security forces. We know that they opened fire in a commuter rail in Tel Aviv, and apparently many of the dead are children. And then they got out at a stop and they continued their murderous spree until they were killed by Israelis that were carrying guns. And we know that Hamas is an Iranian proxy, and that Iran has been working feverishly to get more weapons into Judea and Samaria through Jordan. Israel has intercepted a lot of smuggled weapons, but we know that there's a lot that's gotten through. And in some of the smuggling routes that we've found and that we've intercepted, we've seen just extraordinary quantities of weapons that are being smuggled by Iran through Jordan into Judea and Samaria. So all of the terrorism right now emanating from all of the various fronts that Israel's dealing with, including Judea and Samaria, are directly linked to Iran through supply, through urging people to carry out more and more attacks, and through the operational coordination between Hamas, in this case, and the Iranian regime. So Prime Minister Netanyahu, when he gave remarks just about a half an hour ago from the Security Cabinet meeting, said, in fact, that we know that Iran is also the address behind the terrorism that's emanating from Judea and Samaria.
I don't want to go too far down that path, but I do think it's poignant to recognize when you talk about Judea and Samaria This is what the Biden administration and others are talking about giving away as a two-state solution. It becomes indefensible when these attacks are emanating from within Israel in this area of Judea and Samaria that would be given completely over to the Palestinians.
I'll just add on that in a day like this, when Israel is literally fighting actively along 7 fronts that Iran and its proxies are attacking it from, the Biden administration thought it was appropriate to issue sanctions against Israeli citizens who oppose the two-state solution. So that they issued, this is the, I think, they did it against a group that they claimed as an organization, but it's not. They referred to them as the Hilltop Youth Organization, but that essentially, since it's not an organization, it gives them the arbitrary ability to just label anybody they want to a member of a non-existent organization and sanction them. So we've already had 13 Israelis sanctioned under this executive order that Biden issued in February to punish Israelis who oppose his plan to establish a Palestinian state in Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem, along with Gaza. And they just took it up a big step forward today of all days.
Speaking of the Biden administration, Israeli troops in the last 24 hours went into Lebanon, southern Lebanon, to eliminate the threat from Hezbollah. Is there evidence to suggest that the Biden administration leaked that information out to give Hezbollah a heads up, or Lebanese officials?
Or to try to scuttle the operation itself by leaking it? Yes, the Biden administration claimed loudly and rather publicly that they weren't brought into the secret plans of Israel to eliminate Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah until the planes were already up in the air. Incidentally, JNS carried out a poll earlier this week that showed that 83% of Israelis agree with Prime Minister Netanyahu's decision not to inform the Biden administration ahead of time. Can
I vote in that poll?
Sure.
I would agree. Given this is an operational issue, I mean, this put lives at risk going into Lebanon.
Precisely. And so what happened was, though, apparently because they had complained so loudly about Israel not informing them ahead of time of the Nasrallah operation, that Israel did inform them of our plans to go into Lebanon, and the Americans immediately leaked it to the U.S. media. And this happened over a series of conversations that Israel had, trying to coordinate with the Americans, and the administration turned around each time and leaked the information to the media almost immediately after the conversation with the Israelis ended. So it clearly got a lot of feathers ruffled in Israel, to say the least, that they were behaving in this way.
Here's my suggestion. You can pass this on to the Prime Minister. Just tell them to send us a postcard once they're there, and they can inform the Biden administration that way. Carolyn also reports that the Biden administration and Iran were negotiating the scope of the strike. Is there any validity to those reports?
What's interesting is those reports were actually initially emanating from American sources, and then when an outcry in Israel and on social media in particular, and in the media here, then suddenly you had a change story where the Americans denied that they were negotiating with the Iranians, and then said that it was just an Iranian was trying to contact the Americans, but that the Americans weren't negotiating. So believe what you want. The initial reports were that the United States was, in fact, coordinating Iran's attack with Iran beforehand to try to determine what would be an acceptable amount of missiles to send over to Israel that the United States could then pressure Israel not to respond forcefully to. At any rate, it's all sort of an academic question, because Prime Minister Netanyahu said this evening that, or tonight, that Israel is going to respond harshly to Iran's.
We only have
missile.
about 45 seconds left, Carolyn, but would this not be the opportune time to eliminate the threat of Iran and their nuclear capabilities?
Well, I certainly agree with you. I know that that's one of the issues that's being considered by the Security Cabinet, according to reports in the media, and another one is Iran's oil installations. So those appear to be the top two options that are on the table now, at least as far as media reports are concerned, regarding what the cabinet is considering this evening.
Carolyn Glick, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want you and all of our friends there in Israel to know that we're praying for you, praying for the peace of not only Jerusalem, but all of Israel and the region. Everyone does well when there's peace in the land, and we're grateful for the strength of Israel and God's favor that's been upon the country in this conflict, and we pray for a quick resolution.
Thank you very much. God bless.